Today, we set out to find the best budget bow we can make.
I got you.
Wait.
All right, go ahead.
Wait, who's this?
Go ahead.
Who's this nicer? Put it out there. What do you got?
You got Benchmade? What you got?
I got a buck there.
Well, we'll let the people decide.
Hey, hit it with a little cut, dude. Let's see.
Oh, mine's dull as shit.
Oh. Yeah, because you use yours. First, we hydrate.
It's probably the only one that would be good warm. Yeah, that's what I remember. That's good stuff.
It is. I really like it.
It's really good. Jocko, if you're listening, you need a peach tea.
Our mission, something we've been scheming on since I started to do videos with the Baradat Plus last year.
Yeah.
We want to find the best bow we can make for under $1,000, right? Good evening. Traveling back in time to remind you to subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm on a massive push to 100,000 subscribers, and it would mean a lot to me. Also, we got to bump off my friend Brandon McDonald on a quick race to 50, and let's get right back to the video.
Yeah, not cutting corners on any particular thing. Like, everything has to be functional and everything has to be good. So not just your basic $100 package. Like, what would you really go hunting with? Like, if we got to cut as much out of it as we can, what would we go hunting with under $1,000?
Bow
a
package.
legit real bow
Built
package.
to hunt bow package.
But in order to do that, we have to determine what bow we're starting with so we know how much money we have to spend on parts to be under $1,000.
Now, we asked you guys last week what budget bows we should include. Those are included in here. Josh is also the first line of defense and has reviewed all the recent bows that have come out on his channel. These are the 4 bows that made it to this test. Which we're gonna sift through today and figure out speed, figure out fit and feel, and narrow it down to what we think is a real contender.
I pick it up and chuck it and you catch it.
All right.
You can do it?
Yeah, I got hands like gold, dude.
You drop. You ready?
Yeah. Bear Alaskan XT up first via your request. .25 to 30-inch draw length, 6 1/4-inch brace height. Very quickly, why is brace height important?
Brace height typically is a determiner for forgiveness. I have more detailed measurements that I try to put into what's forgiving, but it is the guideline that most manufacturers use to determine how forgiving a bow is going to be, the distance from grip to string. The higher that number, typically the harder it is to torque the bow. There's more to it than that, but that's your basic.
Bear Alaskan XT coming in at a very strong price point.
To boot, I mean, this bow is really impressive for what they're offering as far as current technology or upgrades from what would be older school stuff. Like, if you're in a moderate price point to more of an entry-level bow, you may even be looking at a used bow to try to get into that. And this bow integrates your front option.
Picatinny, that's nice.
Picatinny on the front, Picatinny on the back. So that's pretty dope. Yeah. This is the least expensive of the 4 bows that we're looking at. This bow is only $529. Has pivoting modules, 1/2-inch adjustability, all built into the cam. Is an integrated riser dampeners. And the speed's actually pretty impressive. And the other thing that's really impressive about this bow is it's more of a Western hunting style bow. It's a 33 axle to axle, 6 5/8 brace height. And when you're comparing Western and Eastern, or i.e. running and gunning, shooting farther away versus tree stand hunting, ground blind hunting, which we both do both, so it's not like a prejudice thing. But the reality of it is typically a longer bow with a higher brace height's more forgiving. And there's a lot of impressive little things into this bow to come in at $530. But at the end of the day, we still need to like how it feels.
Yeah, I gotta like how it feels, gotta like how it looks.
Aesthetically, it's nice.
I do like it.
I think it's a good look.
I do like the color scheme of this. Simple, military-looking green, 10 strings. That longer riser is typically a good thing because it keeps your riser from wiggling too much. Enough talking about it, let's shoot it. Alaskan XT, I like that they set you up off the riser.
Yeah, all 4 of these bows all have integrated grips. So straight up off the riser, which is very forgiving, great for a new archer.
Do I look okay height-wise?
Oh, I got no idea. Yeah, you look all right.
I'm gonna shoot a couple arrows, get you guys some thoughts and feels.
It's got riser dampeners, it's got limb dampeners, it's got triangle cuts in the riser for quivers, so it does give you some quiver options if you want to do a two-piece. It's got a lower stabilizer or lower mount hole if you want to do a V-bar, upper mount hole if you want to do a V-bar up there. I mean, they've done a lot with what this is and how much it costs. But the biggest thing and the largest difference you're going to see in this bow and any other bow that you look at in this price range is the integration. Pick mount front, IMS rear. That doesn't come on anything that's this price. We're good?
Yep, it definitely feels consistent with what I'm used to in a longer axle-to-axle bow. It feels stable at full draw. There's no significant hump in the...
Oh, it's not Fergie's bow?
Yeah, no, it's not Fergie's bow. It feels pretty smooth coming back, although it does feel like there's a little crunch there. Like I've drawn bows that are just a little smoother all the way.
This does offer a limb stop too, right?
Yeah. Man, I could totally see hunting with something like this. I'm very curious to see what the speed is, given how nice that looks. That's like something that's typically up my alley.
Yep.
Ooh, one-handed catch, still got it. Bowtech Carbon Zion. First impression, I love the feel of the carbon in the hand. I think it feels really nice.
Can we pause for 1 second?
Yeah.
And whenever you talk about like playing basketball or whatnot, my brain goes back to Along Came Polly and Philip Seymour Hoffman's character where he's terrible at basketball.
Yeah, I have a standing offer for horse for anyone who wants to take me down. So
oh Jesus,
we'll get you guys a basketball segment. Yeah, very
raindrops. Let it rain. So funny.
I like the feel of carbon. I can get behind that. I'm not sure how they manufactured a carbon bow that is so inexpensive compared to the expensive ones. Solid one piece, kind of skinny. I'm very curious to shoot this and see what it feels like.
I had someone tell me once that this is thermoplastic.
Okay.
Which they use in planes a lot. So it's not like it's like a resin carbon dust composite. Never really had a problem with one.
As far as features, this thing looks a little more bare bones than the last one. One thing interesting about Bowtech is it does allow you to flip your disc to go from comfort to performance, which will basically change how your draw cycle feels. Comfort is a little more soft drawing back. Performance is a little harsher, a little more rollover typically. And performance will shoot a little faster. So there is that option to decide, hey, do I want a faster bow or a smoother bow, depending on what you want.
And it's really, 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 really light. And it does have a limb stop.
Very light.
The draw stop that
pretty parallel looking bow.
3.3 pounds. Like it's the lightest adult male bow on the planet. It's lighter than anybody else's carbon bow. And it does have a little riser dampener.
And everything we're doing today, all these bows are set up at a 29-inch draw length, 70-pound peak weight, so they're all apples to apples to apples.
Send it.
Send it. Carbon Zion.
First thoughts?
First thoughts, the grip is beautiful. Like, it's a very nice grip. It also felt harsher as far as vibration, a little more jump out of the hand. Probably because it's a light bow. Like, that really wanted it.
Traditionally, everything else being equal, the more weight you take out of a bow, the more it vibrates and the more it moves.
Yeah. I do like how this looks. I mean, I could see this being a bow someone takes to the woods very confidently with. Like, looks good.
Well, there's a reason in that price point it's been our best-selling bow for like 4 years.
Yeah. The draw cycle does feel a little heavier in the front end. Once it gets rolling, it does feel a touch smoother than the Alaskan XT. I'll shoot one more. Cool bow, man.
Yeah, it's nice. People start looking at the statistics of it and they end up buying it a lot.
For being 31 inches axle to axle and also very light, I felt like that was pretty stable. Not as stable as the Alaskan XT, but maybe just a touch down from that.
Whitetail Maxx!
Bear Whitetail Maxx.
Just so you know, I'm throwing those really gently easy for you, so a monkey should be able to catch that.
Bear Whitetail Maxx. One thing I like that Bear has been doing these last couple years, it's nice to see them working with the hunting public. I don't know those guys personally, but they sure seem like they're having a heck of a lot of fun hunting, being outdoors, and that's something I can get behind 100%. Bear has some really strong budget bow options, which is why they ended up with 2 bows in our test. 31-inch axle to axle, 6.5-inch brace height, Any interesting features they should know about? I don't see Picatinny on this.
No, it's like the Alaskan XT with less features, but it's a faster cam. That's where the price difference is, because that bow's actually more expensive. That bow's $599 instead of $529. That bow is faster. So if you're coming down to try,
we're gonna see how much.
Well, I tested it. It was pretty darn fast, and I haven't tested that bow yet. But by the time this video comes out, I will have tested that bow, and you'll be able to compare numbers back and forth.
Yeah.
Give it a whirl, son.
You are shooting straight off the riser, which is nice. Shooting off the riser might not be as comfortable as like a cushy grip, but explain why it might make sense.
Well, shooting off the riser has the least amount of contact with your hand, so the less your hand touching the grip, the harder it is to torque or influence the bow's movement. It's the idea of shooting off of the riser, and if you look at every major target bow, with the exception of one or two, they're all shooting off of the riser. So in a bow that's designed for accuracy over anything else, they all shoot off the riser. There's a reason for it. Now, I will throw an extra caveat into the bear bows. They do make a grip that'll go on that if you don't want to shoot off the riser, whereas Darton doesn't and Bowtech doesn't. So that is one feature you get with a bear as an option. You can change the grip out, but I wouldn't. That's better functioning in my opinion.
First impression for you guys, I just came off of drawing these two bows. This draw cycle is definitely stiffer in the front end. If those bows feel like 70 pounds, this feels like 77 pounds to start. It feels like it's a little heavier.
It's going to reinforce that.
It's a little more aggressive.
It is going to be faster.
That's pretty common when a bow is a faster cam, is it feels a little shittier.
There is no magic pill, people.
Wait. I want a magic pill, $5.99.
If it goes faster, it's going to pull harder.
Yeah.
If everything else is equal.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I do feel like the riser's holding pretty steady, but pull, a little more hump over into the back wall. So the draw cycle is definitely, I would say this would be like 2 or 3 steps down from the best draw cycle I felt in these bows.
That's fair.
Final arrow, Bear Whitetail Maxx. Looks similar to an Alaskan XT, few less features, stiffer draw cycle. Will be very interesting to see how it performs on the speed test. And to me, beginning of the year, this is a little bit of a wild card bow, Darton Consequence. You don't hear the Darton name pop up all the time, although I saw quite a few Darton bows at the Vegas tournament. This bow has made its way into the kind of the nooks and crannies of the internet, and I get a lot of requests for it.
How much longer are you making me sit down here like this?
Yeah. Throw it! Oh, dang, boy. One hand only. 2 hands while you're learning. A lot of people requested this bow. It's got pretty strong specs. 29.5-inch axle to axle, a little shorter there, but 7.5-inch brace height. That's a pretty big number. Mm-hmm. I'm very curious to see how it feels.
That bow's got a lot going on for it. I'm very impressed with it. We weren't really carrying Darton much, and when they showed us this bow this year, we decided to kind of go all in. There's a lot of reasons why I would go all in on this product, because they really didn't cut corners at a $650 price tag. Yeah, $650 price tag. What you're gaining, before you don't stab me in the face with it, one, it's the only bow that actually has a roller guard at all these bows. That's number one.
What does a roller guard do versus?
Roller guards typically don't wear out in general. Like when it slides back and forth, you deal with chatter on the rod. It's older technology is what it really boils down to, and most price point bows are using older technology to try to justify the cost difference. They didn't cut corners where you normally would in a price point bow, which makes it intriguing. Roller guard. This is the same limb set and width as on their $1,200, $1,300 bows, where if you go back and look at all the other ones, they're skinnier, they're narrower, they're a little cheaper.
Typically, wider limbs has been a recent trend in the industry. Wider limbs, supposed to hold the bow a little more stable.
Thicker axles, so this has 1/4-inch axles in it, where everything else has a 3/16 axle, because there's more load and more energy in here. Running a yoke system, which allows lateral transfer of energy better, so you're less likely to get wheeling in something like this, as opposed to all the other ones, which the lower cam doesn't have any yoke system or assembly on it. Still runs spacers and shims to where you can shim it, because some of these bows, well, I should say one of these bows, they really don't have shims for. So you can't like move a cam left or right to try to get a cam straight. And then the other ones, they just got a whole bunch of little spacers. But that having a lateral transfer, it's going to make it smoother and a little more forgiving in that regard. When you look at a bow manufacturer's high-end bow, those are features that are normally on it, and they didn't take those off of this bow. Not to say this bow should be $1,200, because I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is they didn't seem to cut any corners on it, where normally they're trying to cut a corner to justify the fact that this bow's $600 instead of $1,200. I don't see that here.
Yeah. High quality build in not a high price point. Pretty cool. I'm excited to shoot it. Darton Consequence. Draw cycle all the way back, very smooth. What felt like was the firmest stopping point for a back wall. Like you just hit a point and that was the end of it.
Well, I can add something right now that I noticed.
Yeah.
That sounded quieter than the other
Oh,
three.
interesting.
Like,
yeah, that's a good observation.
It's really hard as the shooter to tell which one's louder, but when you're standing next to it and somebody else is shooting, it's actually pretty easy to pick it up. And that was definitely quieter than those three.
Yeah.
For whatever that's worth.
Also shooting off the riser. You know, typically grips are so different bow to bow to bow, but all of these grips are semi-similar. All these grips feel really good. I gotta get another one out of here. See, this bow kicks out a little more from the bottom. Mm-hmm. What does that mean to you?
It's grip position traditionally, and the bow also it has the least amount of reflex, which if you understand what reflex is, that bow has the least. The less reflex you have, the more the bottom will typically kick out. The more reflex you have typically, the more the top kicks over, which that's really how I would prefer a bow to move because I'm going to put a stabilizer on it no matter what, and then it balances it out better to where it rolls forward but not so hard without a whole bunch of back weight.
To watch Josh's reviews, which I recommend you do if you want the technical specs on these things, he measures reflex as one of his measurables for forgiveness of a bow, right?
Correct. It's not just brace height.
Right, and this is a low reflex bow.
It's a low reflex bow and a very high brace height bow. Like this is, if you're new, if I was designing a bow personally, which I'm not an engineer, so don't give me that, but if I was designing a bow personally in a lab to make for a new archer that's more of an eastern hunter, tree stand, ground blind, closer distances, I'd make this. Like I'd make a relatively straight risered bow with a high brace height that's very forgiving and shooting off of the grip, off of the handle, not an actual integrated grip. At the end of the day, if you're new to the sport, what ideally you want is the most success. Bow design should be really forgiving and easy to shoot well.
High brace height typically means less speed, so I'm very curious to see how this thing stacks up in the speed
Gotta
test.
be slower.
Yeah.
It just has to.
I'm very curious to see how it stacks up in the speed test. Yeah, let me get one more arrow.
It's gotta be. There's no way it's not.
If you watch the riser, it's not. There's not a lot of this going on.
You know why that is?
I don't know why that is, but I just want to.
Wider limb set.
I just want to say that this is stable for a 29.5-inch axle bow. It doesn't feel like a PSE Mach 30, which is a similar axle bow, and that bow for me just had a little bit of this squirreliness going on. This feels more stable. Now this is a little heavier too, but it feels stable for that riser length.
The width is where that comes from. The wider these are, more stable it
We like big width and we cannot lie.
Well, when you know what's the title's getting all the ooh, that thing just points like crazy. It's the widest limb ever put on a bow.
We like that wide load.
So I think you're going to see that transfer.
We like that wide limb.
I think you're going to see that a lot more and more in design in the next 2, 3, 4 years. You're going to see a lot wider.
I think that'll be trendy. Very fun bow to shoot. On to the speed test.
Numero uno, Bear
Speed
Alaskan XT.
Bear Alaskan XT, you got any guesses?
Not a clue.
This is a 430 grain arrow, by the way. 29-inch draw, 70-pound peak weight. We went through and tested them all because we want to make sure we get you a great test here. Here we go. .285.
Yep.
Now that's a pretty strong speed from what we know with what I've been shooting.
Just as fast as most of the other stuff we tested.
That's a flagship speed. That's good speed.
What do you think, huh? You ready for the close-up?
Look at that.
Zion.
Bowtech Carbon Zion. Really like the draw of that after I've drawn a few more.
It's a great bow, man. Like I said, there's a reason it's been our most popular selling bow over the years in that price range. 285.2.
Also very good.
So, and that is in comfort, so you can get more speed out of that.
That's pretty fast.
It is.
Pretty fast. These bows are impressing me. I've got a lot I want to do with a budget bow this year, and one of the things I'm considering doing is going on a hunt with one. So if that's something you want me to do or something you're interested in, let me know. And just let me know what ideas you have brainstorming about budget bows, because it's exciting to me, and I want to see more people doing archery. I want to see more people shooting their bow, and if they can get into a bow and get started, that's awesome. Let me know what you guys think. Bear Whitetail Maxx. Coming in hot. Should be the hottest, right?
Yeah.
It's like quite a deal to crank it over.
Yeah, that bow should be the fastest. 296. I think where you're coming into a little bit of difference here, Tim.
Yeah.
Is those were your old arrows, not your new arrows. And those
That's true.
Those were
That's
heavier.
true. Yeah.
Still, that's a good speed. I mean and we're picking up 10
we're
feet
talking about
there.
15 grains ish. 445, yeah. So I'm coming down to 430. 15 grains.
15 grains should be at least 6 feet.
That is a good point Josh brought up. I did change my arrow a little bit and went to a 30 grain titanium insert instead of 50. So I came down. The net effect ended up being 15 grains. Veins are a little heavier than my previous. These are minus 15 grains from the previous tests you might have seen on the channel. Okay, Darton Consequence. Very forgiving bow.
.287.
Thinking more about this, I want to advance 2 bows to basically a second stage where Josh and I will shoot them side by side, narrow down exactly which one is going to be the budget bow that I will build. Coming in 4th place, Bear Whitetail Maxx. The reason it's in 4th place is because of the harsh draw cycle. It does produce some nice speeds, but if you're new, if you're hunting from a tree stand, draw cycle is pretty harsh, and the features you're getting for spending more money aren't what we're getting with the other Bear. I just think based on my criteria, this is 4th place. Bye-bye. Coming in at a very strong 3rd place. Could have almost slipped its way into 2nd place, but it just doesn't have the features. Can't quite move the wheels as much to tune. Just not as feature rich as these other 2 bows that are coming up right now. So 3rd place, Bowtech Carbon Zion. I also think this is a contender if you wanted a really light bow and a carbon riser, something that might stay warm in the wintertime. I would consider that. Not giving a 1st or a 2nd place, we'll determine that next video. Bear Alaskan XT. Got a few more features at a price that's less than the Whitetail Maxx. 33-inch axle to axle, relatively smooth draw, competitive speed. Honestly,
I think you have the best 2 choices in your hands right now, and you just have to shoot them a little more and be a little more detailed to determine which one you like the best. But they're both great choices. There's not a wrong answer here, and those are both phenomenal.
Yeah, I think there's no bad answers. This surprised me. Genuinely, I knew it had some strong features. I knew it had some internet murmurs. People are excited about it, but it felt very stable for 29.5 axle to axle. And the main other bow I would compare that to is the PSE Mach 30, the shortest bow I've shot this year.
Yeah.
It's significantly more stable. Forgiving, stable, those are things that make for a good hunting bow. So I look forward to the next video. We're going to shoot them off. We're going to decide one. Probably going to build it.
Yeah, I would think that would work.
Something like that. We're going to build a budget bow and have an awesome series of budget bow content this year. Appreciate you guys watching. Go check out Josh's channel. He literally is the bow guy on YouTube. He dives way deeper than we did today. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty or look at other bow stuff, subscribe to my channel. I'm on the road to 100,000 subscribers. It would mean a lot to me if you guys would subscribe. We will catch you back for the next one.